Originally featured in the January 2000 issue of Guitar World, Korn, Acid Test. On the aggressively psychedelic issues, Korn once again take metal into a new harsh realm. By John Pecorelli. A small group of gang members are huddling in the chilly Chicago afternoon, one half block away from Trax recording studios. Best known as the haunt of Ministry's Al Jorgensen, Trax is situated in a modest old brick building that blends perfectly into the post-industrial decay comprising this end of Larrabee Street. It was here that Jorgensen churned out some of the past decade's roughest, heaviest sounds, and you can see why this neighborhood might appeal to him. It looks like an easy place to cop. Inside Trax, a slew of gold and platinum records adorn the foyer wall, and two attractive black women lounge comfortably on a lobby sofa. As the members of one of the decade's roughest and heaviest rock bands file past, the women look up, scrutinizing the scene before them. "Who's that?" one of them asks. "That would be Korn," somebody answers. "Oh, look out, those boys are hard," the other woman says gravely. A few minutes later, the band, guitarist James Monkey Schaefer and Brian Head Welch, bassist Reginald Philly Snuts, Arvizu, drummer David Silveria, and vocalist Jonathan Davis are inside the studio and hooked up with individual mics and headphones. Each of the group's members hold a script, the focus of today's work. Trash talking and horseplay gradually give way to serious sense of purpose as the engineers patch through a vocal coach from Los Angeles and prepare to roll tape. After running through the material, Korn wait quietly for the coach's input. "That's way too gay sounding," comes the response over the telephone patch. "Think dorky gay." Everyone burst out laughing, and then Korn began practicing their lines again. Not to fear, Korn isn't in the process of laying down tracks for their much anticipated new album, Issues. They're merely doing voiceovers for South Park. The vocal coach for this session is none other than South Park co-creator Matt Stone. A die-hard Korn fan, Stone drew the band as cartoon characters, sent the drawings to the group, and enticed them to appear as featured guests on the season's premiere episode. Coincidentally, the series' Halloween special. Even though time was tight, Korn were on their own Family Values tour, unexpectedly filling in for DMX when South Park called Korn Jumps, and they proved to be quick studies. Their vocal inflections are soon perfected for Cartoonland. Amazingly, Stone has somehow coaxed Korn into sounding disarmingly well dorky gay, transforming their typically blunt street lingo into the milquetoast lexicon of the Brady Bunch. Golly, oh boy, and gosh. Before rolling tape, Stone counsels the band again, reminding them one more time of the exact mood he's going for. Think cheesy and gay. "By the way," Severia retorts with a snicker, "thanks for having us on the cheesy and gay episode." By nightfall, as Korn takes the stage at the Allstate Arena in nearby Rosemont, every trace of the session's humor is long gone. Korn's live shows are always explosive, and tonight's concert is no exception. Showing no signs of a band that has spent the better part of a year writing and recording, Korn fire one massive salvo after another at the crowd. Faggot, Blind, Adidas. Each song builds and detonates with intensity of a nail bomb. There's nothing fancy about their presentation and precious little banter between band and audience. Korn's shows may not hold many surprises, but they'll blow you away every time. Something is different tonight, however. Along with the familiar material, a couple of new songs are making their appearances. Beg for Me and Fallen Away from Me. They belong to Korn, to be sure, but they demonstrate a stylistic fluidity which the band's earlier work only hinted at. The songs, both of which appear on Issues, are indicative of the album as a whole, and of Korn, Mach 2. These are songs first and foremost and incendiary devices only secondarily. Korn's nearly schizophrenic musical dynamic has spawned an entire genre of imitators and borrowers, and now the forefathers look ready to shed their skin. The next afternoon, Monkey and Head are hanging out backstage at the Kiel Center in St. Louis, Missouri. The twin towers of modern guitar, Monkey and Head are such a soft-spoken, courteous pair that it's a wonder how all that brutal on-stage intensity can burst forth from these cats without actually devouring them. "I want to know about the brave new Korn I witnessed the previous night. But before we get to that, we need to take inventory of the old Korn and what exactly defines the genre they created. This band has been tagged everything in the book from nu metal to thrash metal to rap metal to thrash rap to pimp rock. The first tag makes sense in an extremely vague, non creative sort of way, but the latter four, who's coming up with this nonsense? I don't know, Monkey says, but I hate it. I don't think anyone ever came up with anything good to call us. I like hip hop, I'm a fan of it, but I don't want to be associated with it anymore. Everyone's doing it. And Limp Bizkit has it cornered. They do it well. They can carry the hip hop metal torch. We don't want it. How did they come up with thrash metal anyway? He continues. Thrash, remember that stuff? First there was heavy metal, then it got heavier, so it became thrash metal. And where that? I don't effing know. I don't care, adds Head, tiredly picking at a plate of Cajun spice shrimp. We're probably all of it, says Monkey. Probably metal, though. That was the 70s. Where did that term even come from? I suggest that while the lyric Heavy Metal Thunder from Steppenwolf's Born to Be Wild is usually credited as the source of the term, it may have also resulted from the heavy rock bands who used various metals in their names back in the 60s. Led Zeppelin, Iron Butterfly, and so on. Yeah, that's it, exclaims Monkey, then pauses. So then we're vegetable rock? Later, Davis puzzles over the same question in his dressing room, but not for long. All I know is that I'm totally playing off this new metal bullshit, he says, jumping off the sofa to grab a studded leather jacket with matching leather trousers from his wardrobe case. He holds it up proudly. I don't think people have seen this shit like this since Rob Halford. It's like, dude, if you're gonna effing accuse me of being metal, I'm gonna be so effing hell-bent for leather metal that it hurts, he laughs, sitting back down. Halford. Now he was a Leatherman, and that became what metal was, says Davis. They were pushing the limits, I guess, and I like that. I'm trying to do some of that myself, but I'm not going over the top, more just skating along. Look at this one. And Davis jumps back up to the wardrobe case where he procures a most heinous studded white leather getup. White, he snickers. Metal. If Korn was a metal band, it was a new species indeed, one whose origin stubbornly remains mysterious. There's nothing in rock's fossil record to anticipate Korn's sudden appearance in 1992. The closest thing to a transitional species is Rage Against the Machine, who is somehow insufficient given that Davis doesn't rap and Rage doesn't do seven-string heaviness. Each member of Korn acknowledged listening to the rap metal pioneers and each attests to their greatness, but as a straight-up influence, no. Nine Inch Nails has been mentioned too, but the band sharply denies any musical influences, even while praising Reznor's work and puzzling over his publicly espoused hatred of Limp Bizkit. Perhaps the first Prong record, 1987's grindcore defining primitive origins, hints at a few things Korn, as do a bits of early Faith No More. But from their self-titled 1995 debut through 1998's Follow the Leader, Korn were fully their own beast and people took notice. So how on earth did five guys from Bakersfield, California come up with the sound that changed the world? And just how did they earn the tag the Metallica of the 90s? Once after hearing me rephrase that question about 50 ways in an interview, Dildy broke down and divulged Korn's secret formula, a recipe remarkable in its simplicity. We listened to all these death metal bands, and some of them had that real heavy, dark groove, so we had to figure out how to make that shit really hip, really bouncing and hopping. And we figured just slow the shit down. Take out all the solos and make it hop. Maybe that's all there is to it. In any case, given Korn's subsequent place in rock's social strata, taking out all the solos was akin to committing blasphemy. That was the work of punk groups, not metal bands. No matter to Korn. Actually, Monkey admits, we grew up playing guitar solos and practicing them. It was like the whole build-up of the song was about that. The high point of the song wasn't the chorus, it was the guitar solo after the chorus. We just thought that was kind of egotistical. It's boring too, agrees Head. It just got dull. So we decided as a band to create something together where we all can step up to the podium and shine and do our thing. Just get more intense with the song, more melodic or whatever, adds Head. Or let the vocal do something, continues Monkey. Because the solo thing has been done and done over and over. How many times have you gone to sleep in a guitar passage? We just thought it was an old hat. And you don't hear it so much anymore, chuckles Head. There's no one doing solos nowadays. The really great players must be mad at bands like us now. Where are all the really great players these days anyway? VH1, says Monkey flatly, on Where Are They Now? Musically, Issues represents a departure from the traditional Korn sound. Added to the mix are dark waves of mellotron and Australian didgeridoo, giving it an eerie psychedelic feel which is accentuated by Davis's soaring harmonizations. Color in much of the record from the bagpipe bass opener Dead to the first single Fallen Away From Me to the 8-minute closing track Dirty. Davis's haunting and beautiful harmonies recall the vocal work of groups like the Byrds and latter period Beatles, an intentional nod to the experimental spirit of the liturgically altered 60s. Not exactly, says Davis. Vocally, I was inspired by the Electric Light Orchestra and the Carpenters and stuff like that, he explains. I was trying to think effing sick. My solution was to write about some sick ass shit, but make it sound all happy like the Carpenters. On songs like Dead, that contrast is awesome. Musically, though, I can see why people would consider Issues to be psychedelic. It just takes you somewhere. Everybody's been comparing it to Pink Floyd and Genesis, that kind of vibe. I always joke that people are going to be taking mushrooms to it and getting effing on acid. I listen to it at night with headphones and I think this is some trippy, weird shit. And no one else is doing it, he continues. We've always had to be innovators just to keep our heads up and not get lost in all that shit. I wouldn't say it's hard for us, but it is frustrating. It's hard when you do something like we did and everybody just sorts the bites off of you. It's cool for a while, but then it makes us seem kind of played out, even though we started the whole thing. Monkey seconds the thought. Someone in a band, I can't remember who, it doesn't matter, was telling me the other day, we want to be heavy, but everything we play sounds like you guys. Every song we write ends up sounding like Korn. Well, they're really going to be thrown by this record. The single Falling Away From Me is the only song on it that even has that classic Korn sound. Yeah, agrees Head. We just experimented a lot more. Adds Monkey, we knew when we wrote this album that we were going to have to do something really great because our last record was commercially successful. We knew there would be greater expectations, but we also knew that repeating ourselves wasn't the answer. We knew we had to move forward, push the boundaries, and create something very personal. For Davis, the album was more personal than any the group had made before. Months ago, after casually glancing through the singer's lyric book, bassist Fildy proclaimed, "Man, you got issues," and thus was born the album's moniker. While track titles like Am I Going Crazy, Trash, and Make Me Bad suggest it's business as usual for the raucous SoCal quintet, looks can be deceiving. Issues is in fact a concept record in many ways as Heroin as the Wall, tracing with pointed acumen Davis's maladjustments to fame and his problems with substance abuse. From the time we started Family Values until I got better, it was just anxiety and me going straight crazy, he says somberly. I went completely effed up cuckoo. I had to go to the doctor. I got on medicine and I'm all good now. But the whole album is about what I was feeling and the thoughts I had. I was ready to kill myself. Kids don't know what I went through. As for the fans, well, they drove me effing insane. But if it wasn't for them, I'd be dead anyway. Kind of a catch 22. Truth be told, Davis's difficulties coping with the pressures of life in the public eye date back some years. In mid 1997, as the group neared the end of its 2-year tour for Life is Peachy, he confided, I honestly don't know why I'm stressing. I'm in an awesome band, I'm traveling the world, writing songs, I'm changing people's lives. Why am I hating it so bad? He admitted to a tranquilizer addiction and proclivity for Jack and Coke that was become near legendary in the following years. He also spoke of cleaning up. He had become a parent, and the last person Davis wanted to emulate was his own father, a country musician in the legendary Buck Owens band, who often left home to tour and was often drunk when he wasn't touring. So Davis took the plunge and got sober. One benefit of his newfound temperance became evident almost immediately. The writing and recording of Issues was downright speedy relative to the production time of Follow the Leader. Partial credit must go to producer Brendan O'Brien, whose strategy, which he employed previously with Pearl Jam, Rage Against the Machine, and Stone Temple Pilots, was to keep the production moving at all costs. During the making of Issues, if a song wasn't working out, the group would turn its attention to another unfinished ideal and try to flesh it out. During the leaders' sessions, they would have merely called it a day and gone home. O'Brien's influence is credited by everyone in the band, but it's only part of the story. When we went into the studio, John had no lyrics, nothing, says Head. Sometimes he wrote the songs like an hour before he sang them, lyrics and melodies. Davis was even more ambitious about his role on Trash. The rest of us had to go to an award show, says Head. By the time we got back to the studio, he'd written the song and sung the backups and everything. We were like, oh my God. What was his trick? I think he's just, Monkey pauses, sober. He's been that way for a year, says Head, nodding. No cigarettes, no alcohol, nothing. His mind is clear. There's nothing in the way now. Melody just flows out of him. A lot of it was Brendan, says Davis, referring to the pace at which O'Brien kept the group moving. And a lot of it was that I didn't have to sing songs 50 times over because I was effed up. Whatever benefits Korn is experiencing as a result of Davis's sobriety, there is an ironic downside. Life for recovering addicts is no cakewalk. They often wake up to see the old monsters that drugs or alcohol put on hold staring them right in face. Sometimes they trade the spoon for the fork, as Mudhoney once put it, or they get bloated on religion instead. Sometimes they drop back into substance abuse, and sometimes they triumph and grow from the whole experience. As for Davis, he seems to be having a difficult time these days. However focused he was in the studio, he does not come across that way in the interviews. He fidgets, looks away frequently, and occasionally trails off into a non sequitur. It's a state of compulsive agitation that, considering Davis's sobriety, brings to mind one of the group's recent hits, Freak on a Leash. Davis says something about the recording of issues being like a downfall, and that all there is to do now is crawl back up. He characterizes the past year as really effed. Then dismisses a query about the difficulty of sobering up with a simple, I've had to be really strong, adding cryptically, I know I'm gonna die. It's dangerous to interfere too much for an hour-long interview, but it seems as though the troubled singer is dealing with more issues than ever. Certainly none of it has softened his lyrics. They remain as bluntly autobiographical as ever. Likewise, Davis's temperance hasn't dulled the band's attack. Issues isn't stunning for the severity of its rage as Korn's monumental debut album was, nor does it shock with the kind of towering, studio-sculpted sonic constructs that typified Follow the Leader. Instead, Issues astounds with the weight of its songwriting in place of the band's signature terse, choppy dynamics, its unexpected fluidity. In place of jolting explosiveness are thoughtful arrangements, mature pacing, and really good songs, which is not to say Issues doesn't have moments of sheer brutality. Yeah, we changed it up a lot, but it's still Korn, Davis says. I feel like Follow the Leader was the last chapter in that kind of music. You can only go so far, and every band has taken bite out of it and diluted it and done everything that we've done. So much that it's just ridiculous. We had to change up a little bit and remember what we are. But Davis had his own personal reasons for making a change. I could only scream so much, and on this one, I wasn't so much pissed. I was hurt and scared and didn't know what was going to happen. If I was going to die or what. I do scream, but it's different. If you want to hear screaming, listen to the other ones. I just got to do some new shit. Fortunately for Davis, his bandmates feel the same way. To that end, Korn recently showcased the album by performing it live, top to bottom, with the full orchestra and choir, the evening before its official release date. And the venue? New York City's famed Apollo Theater, the legendary 85-year-old structure that's played host to some of America's most famous black performers, including Bessie Smith, Charlie Parker, Duke Ellington, and Thelonious Monk. A concept album performed in its entirety with full orchestra smacks distinctly of 70s prog rock excessiveness. Anyone don't care to remember Emerson, Lake and Palmer's doomed 1977 tour with full orchestra? But Korn has never balked at daunting prospects. Starting their own label, Elementary, 2 years ago garnered them a few smirks within the industry. But when the first signed act, Orgy, went platinum, cynics were dumbfounded. Similarly, the Family Values Tour, Korn's ambitious version of Lollapalooza, has seen a 30% increase in ticket sales from its first year to this, according to Polestar magazine. And the task of getting their first two albums to go platinum with virtually no help from radio or MTV may have seemed daunting too, but they did it with relentless touring and consistently good live shows. All things considered, these five guys from Bakersfield have accomplished a hell of a lot. You have to wonder, what do they want that they don't already have? Monkey's quick to answer. Just appreciation from other musicians, he says. Yesterday in Chicago, a friend of Jonathan's told me, I never really liked any of your music, but Jonathan played your new album and I really like it. No way, that skinny kid? Asked Head. Yeah, and we're not a type of band that he likes, he said. And I tell you too, I heard it from beginning to end and it really blew me away. He's honest, so it's cool. And he continues, one thing that I really like about this album is that there are no guest appearances and no hip hop. It's just a good rock record. It's just Korn. So, what exactly is Korn these days? Well, we kind of just go for our really dark, I don't know, what would you say, head? Ass kicking metal, he laughs. Yes, dude, says Monkey, looking back at me with a big grin. Ass kicking metal. And here's the sidebar. Boogie Nights, the simple truth behind Korn's deceptively complex sound. Korn's widely imitated seven-string guitar sound has been called the tap-in of the 90s by the editor of this magazine. From arena stages to practice pad and basements, guitarists the globe over are trying to approximate the low, gnarly tones Monkey and Head coax from their setups. What exactly is the secret recipe for heavy? The members of Korn, as well as their guitar tech Michael Kako Villalobos, contend there is none. It's all based around your rig and your guitar, says Villalobos. Using the seven-string guitar and the Mason Boogie amps, there's nothing but deep right there. Korn's use of the Ibanez RG7 with the low B tuned down to A is no big mystery. In addition, Korn utilizes a variety of effects, everything from the Steve I popularized Digitech XP100 whammy wall to basic Boss chorus and reverb boxes, plus an array of funky electro harmonics products. Monkey has 17 pedals at his foot's disposal, by the way, but none of these help them get any lower on the heaviness scale. The real deal there, says Monkey, is what they play, not what they play through. You know the dissonant chords we play, that's the out of key sound? Well, if you put that right bass note right behind it, it sounds like Korn. If you play some of the chords that we do just by themselves, it sounds wrong. But by putting the right bass note right behind it in the right groove, that's how we do it. Villalobos concurs. That's actually it, man, he says. Just a straight, direct tone. There's nothing hiding behind the sound. It's all in the riffs that they do.